Great, thank you very much. So, good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about my insights on ASHRAE. Again, my name is Christopher Martinez. We'll get a little bit more into my background as the presentation goes on. One disclaimer that I'd like to share, though, is the fact that this presentation represents my own personal opinions, wonderful opinion, by the way, of ASHRAE and my research on the organization. The presentation was not vetted or created, reviewed, or endorsed by ASHRAE or by the ASHRAE Florida West Coast chapter. So again, this just expresses my unique and again positive opinion of the organization. So here's an overview on what we're going to talk about. First, an introduction of who I am, then understand what is ASHRAE and what industry exposure and involvement opportunities that exist within the organization, and professional resources that are available through ASHRAE, financial incentives that come through the organization, some success stories of people that I've worked with or were students with that used ASHRAE as a stepping stone in their professional development. We're going to do a career planning activity, and then we'll close out with some Q&A. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Florida. I'm a USF grad, by the way, 2013, got my master's from here. I got my bachelor's prior to that. And I have experience in forensic building sciences. And forensics, in case you're wondering, it's the investigation also primarily for litigation purposes of, in this case, building-related damages. I focus on moisture-related damages, wetting, and moisture intrusion. But I was also involved in electronics manufacturing for about 5.5 years. Currently self-employed. The name of my company is True North Engineering, LLC, again, where we provide consulting and forensic engineering services. Now, you may not have realized this, but this isn't the first time that you're seeing my face, because right in the fishbowl is a picture of me, what I look like 10 plus years ago. So that was me in my mid-20s. Standing up here today, depending on how you compare this picture to what's before you, I may be the ghost of Christmas future, so to speak, or engineering future. So what is ASHRAE? Well, taken from their website, ASHRAE's mission and vision, their mission is to serve humanity by advancing the arts and sciences of heating, ventilation, air conditioning, refrigeration, and their allied fields. We're going to talk a little bit more about what allied fields may represent in a few slides. And their vision is for a healthy and sustainable built environment for all. Now, ASHRAE was founded back in 1894. And we could see on this slide, their first annual meeting was 1895. Then they were known as the American Society of Heating and Ventilation Engineers. Ventilating because air conditioning hadn't been invented yet. The name for the organization changed as a result after that to the American Society for Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers, which stemmed the acronym ASHRAE, and then they dropped the whole bit and just stuck with the acronym. That's their name moving forward. It's just ASHRAE. We don't have to go back and identify the different aspects of it. Now, those allied fields, I'm going to present those as different industries and sciences that are utilized or you have exposure to or that are adjacent to the building science field. So fluids. Many of you are taking fluids-related courses. When you're dealing with heating, ventilation, air conditioning, refrigeration, etc., you're dealing with air, you're dealing with water, you're dealing with refrigerants and working fluids. How they're flowing in and out of spaces, ducts, pipes, valves, fans being pumped through pumps, all of the like. Heat exchange. Well, of course, air conditioning and refrigeration and heating, that's at the crux of all of this. So certainly appreciation and application for the sciences and principles behind conduction, convection, and radiation all come into play. Building design and construction, mechanical system design, commissioning. And what commissioning represents, by the way, is you have a building that's designed, spec'd to be a certain way. People go and try to build it that way. The commissioning group comes along and makes sure it's performing as designed. And then also modeling of the building prior to its construction and also afterwards in order to better understand, hey, how is the heat exchange with this building? Or how is the ventilation performing? This iterative refinement Manufacturing. All of the things that come into play into a building, well, yes, we have certain stuff that gets built on site, but from the drywall and the carpeting to the ducts, fans, lights, they were all manufactured off-site. So manufacturing definitely comes into play. We've got compressors, fans, heat exchangers, metering devices. So if you have an interest in manufacturing, certainly you could get exposure through ASHRAE and the related activities to various product manufacturers and the industry as a whole. Electronic controls, we want to be able to set and control these objects and monitor them, make sure they're performing as designed. So of course we're monitoring, measuring temperature, pressure, and flow rates. And then automation comes into play. For the HVAC and R system as a whole, we ideally want to be able to set it and forget it, or at least the building owner or the end user wants to be able to do that. So we as engineers have to be able to configure the systems in order to provide that opportunity, and also to be able to monitor the performance off-site. Now I'm going to give you an overview on ASHRAE's global framework. This is how they go about managing the activity of the organization. At the local level, we have chapters. There's a whole series of chapters. Again, ASHRAE is an international organization, so worldwide there are 170 chapters as a whole. These chapters, they get grouped together to regions, and these regions are areas specific to the globe. There are 16 regions around the world, and the regions go and report to ASHRAE Society, the international organization. So the chapters report to the region, and the region reports to the society. Here in Tampa, Florida, we're part of the Florida West Coast chapter, and we report to Region 12. That represents Florida and South America. Being a worldwide organization, there are 132 countries that ASHRAE has chapters and membership in. What's great about the organization is you can participate at any level or a combination of levels within this framework. So you can participate in the chapter, you can get involved in society activity and not get involved at the chapter, or you can get involved in all three. I personally like to get involved in all three, and the next slide will demonstrate the opportunities that each of those different levels present for you, the participant. Now at the chapter level, we have monthly dinner meetings, and this is where a group of 3 to 4 dozen local professionals come and meet. We have a social event beforehand, and then there's a dinner. There's a topic being presented for continuing education purposes or something relevant to the advancement of our field, and then question and answer period afterwards. One of the things that I really like about the ASHRAE meetings is with the name tags, it's just names, not titles. It makes it more comfortable to go up and say, oh, hi, John Doe, I'm Christopher Martinez. It's a pleasure to meet you. Exchange a little back and forth, and then you come to learn out, oh, wow, you're actually the vice president of this company or something like that. It lowers the bar of anxiety when it comes to the social interaction, because you're introducing one another based on names, and then the company and position comes up in the normal course of discussion. We also engage in site tours. One that we commonly do is we tour Amalie Arena, not only to see the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system behind the scenes, but also how they maintain the ice rink itself and view the control systems behind the scenes and the mechanical equipment that makes the ice there and how they go about maintaining it. What's involved in operating a world-renowned ice rink. And then we also have a series of different events. One of them is the annual shrimp boil. Food is always great. It's a big social activity, typically over at Davis Islands. Really nice scenery out on the water. At the regional level, we have biannual chapter regional conferences. We abbreviate that CRC. And here's where more technical presentations take place. And then there's presentation of awards to different members for, well, a variety of different activities or accomplishments. And then ASHRAE operations related meetings take place there. And then at the society level, we have the winter and annual conferences. Big part of this are technical presentations. What I have scrolling up on screen right now are a series of different activities that took place during one day. A lot of stuff on the leading edge of technology or innovation or relevant technical information, even leadership practices too. And then again, a series of more awards, but again, recognized now at the society level, so they take into account both regional and chapter activity. Operations meetings, so now the different regional groups, they go and meet with the society leadership, and they get their information and briefing on, hey, this is what we've done, this is what we did, this is what was great, here are some opportunities for improvement and direction on where to go ahead. And then there are committee meetings. These committees, they host a wide range of different scenarios. We'll get into those on the next slide. So there are professional committees. They're involved in 3 different areas primarily that they focus on. One is organizational operations. Again, when you're operating in an organization that has people in 132 different countries, right, with 100 plus chapters, there's a lot of moving parts to that. And so this is just a snapshot of all the different councils and committees that are involved there. And then there are committees that are within there that are geared towards publishing and education. ASHRAE has published over 100 books, and they have maintained a journal for the past 67 years. So there's a vast amount of resources available. One of the prime ones that you'll get exposure to, and that is the ASHRAE handbook, the fundamentals. There's actually 4 different handbooks, but the fundamentals one, it's a great resource. It covers all the different basics that are pertinent to heating, ventilation, refrigeration, and air conditioning, and talks about theory. It presents examples. There's formulas. The examples themselves are worked out with the answers in them. I know back when I was attending USF, we offered an HVAC course, and this was actually what was used as the textbook. When you're an ASHRAE member, you get access to a new one. And then there's committees focused on technology, including standards. And this is very exciting to me. See, as engineers, when we go to our classes in college and we learn about heat transfer, we learn about thermodynamics, we learn about fluids. The professor goes and teaches through their own notes and in tandem the textbook that you have, and you're working through these example problems on your own. You're fortifying your knowledge on that subject. And more often than not, you're referring to the solutions manual in order to understand how to work through this problem. So solutions manuals are great, but those are to scripted problems. And life is going to present you a whole series of unscripted problems. And so you're going to be scrambling for resources to understand, how do I go about approaching the way to solve this problem? Those handbooks that I mentioned previously, great resource. These professional standards, they're another great resource, because in essence, they're telling you this is what you should be accomplishing at the end of the problem you're presented with in some way, shape, or form. Professional standards, guidelines, recommendations, they're all trying to funnel you down towards a known path. And it's very important that you get an awareness of this as early on as possible, because the world around you is built on codes, guidelines, standards, and professional recommendations and best practices. And this is what you're going to be using as your guiding map in order to navigate whatever industry you're in, because that's what the industry is going to look for when you come out of here. Great, you have an understanding on fluid flow, but are you aware of this ASTM standard and how it pertains to this fluid and its measurement and quantification? And in addition to this, ASHRAE has also funded, through technical committees, hundreds of research reports which underpin the knowledge base for the organization. Here's an example of 3 popular building-related standards. We've got the ASHRAE standard for thermal environmental conditions for human occupancy. That had to be defined. It's not something that just gets pulled out of thin air, so to speak. We need to make sure that thin air, well, it's actually comfortable for the individuals that are there, and it's not so thin. Likewise, ventilation and acceptable indoor air quality. There's a standard that helps guide and determine what should the air quality be in this room. And then an energy standard for sites and buildings except low-rise residential. These are just 3 of, again, more than 50 different standards that ASHRAE has helped develop that define the world we live in. Now, there's financial incentives through an ASHRAE membership or involvement. At the ASHRAE Florida West Coast chapter, that's what FWC stands for, there's scholarships that are provided to students. There's sponsorship opportunities, and these vary year by year, but examples from the past of sponsorship opportunities where they pay for your membership, or they could pay your attendance to the dinners. They could pay for your attendance to one of the conferences, whether it's those CRCs or the winter or annual conferences. And then there's a design competition that's actually hosted by the society at the international level. It goes out to the local areas, and you don't even need to be an ASHRAE member, by the way, in order to participate in these yearly ASHRAE design competitions. But when you go and you submit it, the first group that goes and judges the submissions are at the local chapter level. When you look at the society level, again, more scholarship opportunities. There is also undergraduate grants that are available and graduate student grant availability. So a tremendous amount of resources or opportunities here to consider exploring or seeing if it's an opportunity that's suitable for you. I highly encourage it to explore what's available. And I'd like to share some success stories where back when I was a USF student more than 10 years ago, some other students that were ASHRAE members along with me, how they utilized ASHRAE as a professional stepping stone in their career development. And one of them is Jacob Moberg. He's a senior engineer, energy engineer in the technology industry. Then I also have Ashley. She was a managing partner of a safety and reliability company. And then a senior project engineer, Carl. He works in the aerospace and defense industries. And so I hope with that knowledge that I've presented with you today, again, you could see that professional opportunities are abound out there. There are people who are interested and organizations interested in your success and willing to provide you exposure to a variety of different scenarios relevant to a given professional field and funding opportunities. I have had nothing but great experience through ASHRAE. Their resources have helped me throughout my career. Those research papers, the standards, the published books and their publications, the chapter members, the society members, and all the activities that are tangential to that. So thank you all for inviting me in today. And then what we'll do is we'll go into a question and answer session. Thank you.